The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the hosts and guests, and not necessarily those of the staff or management of Worldwide Digital Broadcasting Corporation.
Hot topics, food, fun, entertainment, and serious business. Live Las Vegas with Rikki Cheese.
I love it when I bop before the show and my guests will bop with me. This is David Wilson. He's a 20-year-old electronic music producer, but he doesn't go by David Wilson. He's got a street cred name, which is...
David Cuff.
Now, Cuff stands for?
Creating Unlikely Futures.
Now, why Unlikely Futures?
Just because I think growing up in Las Vegas, people have kind of a certain idea or like a certain mold. And also growing up in like a Filipino-American home, you know, there's a certain idea of who I was to become. And I just wanted to completely...
Break the mold.
Yeah, just break the mold and create something unlikely.
That's so cool. So now describe your music, an electronic music producer.
Yeah, so basically I sit on a computer and I take sounds from like all over the world and I distort them and, you know, mess with like synthesizers and just throw it all together like a collage.
Wow. So what is it like working alone like that? Because, I mean, you don't have that vibe that you can bounce off of another human being.
Mm-hmm. It's very just in my own world. I mean, growing up, I was very sheltered, so I was always an introvert, and working on my own music is just something that I really enjoyed because I don't have to worry about too much of the outside opinion and just you create what sounds good to me.
I love that. I didn't think about that in those terms. It's like, this is just you. You don't have to worry about compromising for somebody else, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like I'm my own, like I'm a maestro on my computer, you know?
That is fantastic. Okay. You've got a video out that's amazing. It's called Amen.
Yes.
We're going to take a listen to it right now. We're going to come back and talk some more. So listen to this. Take a look at it. It's gorgeous. Okay, what impresses me most about this, I mean, your music is great too, but while that was playing, you said you shot this with some help, but you did all the editing yourself as well?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I had the help of a friend somewhat, but she pretty much just let me borrow her laptop and edit on it, and yeah.
Wow, so how'd you make that jump from just doing music to actually that visual part of it?
Well, to be honest, before I was even doing music, I was always a visual artist. Growing up in Las Vegas, I went to K.O. Knutson Middle School.
Oh, did you really? Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
So it started off at my humble beginnings there with Miss Mosier. She was my
Shout out.
yeah, she was my TV production, photojournalism, media teacher. So from a pretty young age, I was always like into photography, graphic arts, and visual arts, and video editing.
Now, when you are creating your music, are you seeing it at the same time?
Yeah, absolutely. Like when because on my computer I can see all the waveforms of the sounds that I use, and when I close my eyes, I try to visualize like what kind of emotion or what kind of experience does this evoke within myself and then the listener.
Oh, that's fantastic. Now, what's your inspiration? When you get up in the morning, like how do you start your day?
My day starts, or the way that my day starts usually varies, but for the most part, I try to just wake up being thankful, wake up with a sense of gratitude, just for the opportunity of another day, because, a lot of people don't get that opportunity. Sometimes, we just don't make it to tomorrow. So
right. Yeah.
Just try to be thankful for the day, and I think everything kind of builds upon that foundation.
Now, how long did it take to produce Heyman? From start to finish?
Actually, that one was a little bit faster. I would say maybe 2 to 3 days to get like a bulk of the track, but it kind of evolved over time. Like I had a first version, and then over time I added some more details, sprinkled in some more stuff, and yeah, so overall maybe like a month or two. But
now when you see it being played, what goes through your mind?
I'm just really happy, and I'm really thankful that people enjoy what I have to share with the world more than anything. And I hope that it evokes some sort of feeling of awe, because that was kind of the message behind the track, is like amen, and like almost like saying a prayer whenever something goes your way, or even when something doesn't go your way, and just like being thankful for all the lessons and the mistakes and the trials and the lessons.
Yeah, I liked your subtitles too. I liked being able to read along with the lyrics. I'm one of those people who would distort the heck out of lyrics, and then they become ingrained in your mind, and you realize years later that's not what he said. So yeah. I was really grateful for that, to be able to see that.
Well, I liked putting the kind of poetic like sprinkles in there, because there's no lyrics in the track. It's completely instrumental. So I wanted to give people something to take away more than just the audio experience. And I'm a very deep thinker, and I enjoy like sharing these, small like colloquialisms and just like, inspiring thought.
Right. Now, do you do a lot of reading, or what other inspiration do you bring to the table when you're putting your music together?
Yes, I am definitely an avid reader.
How could I tell?
Yeah. Other inspiration really just comes from my experiences, and like I said, I do a lot of searching for sounds that are very worldly. So what's cool about the internet is like we have access to all these different samples, and I'll use like drums from like Africa, or like percussion from Southern America and stuff like that, and that's what really inspires me, because it's like I'm no longer limited to a simple like kick and snare drum. It's I have all these different herbs and spices, and I can just like put it on the track.
Right. Do you ever go out into nature and just naturally do stuff, or do you have everything on your computer?
Well, yeah, I bring out like a field recorder, and I definitely do that as well. Like I'll go out to nature and hike with my friends, or even just like go into the park, or simple experiences, day-to-day stuff. Like if I hear something that like catches my ear, I'll like wait, can we do that again? And I'll pull out my microphone and ask my friends to redo whatever the sound is, or something like that. And yeah, I definitely get a lot of inspiration from that as well.
Yeah, I'm really into sounds, and I've noticed that over time. A lot of my girlfriends are sound therapists. All my girlfriends are either sound therapists or dog trainers. Like the two worlds that I live in.
Yeah.
And I love getting up in the morning my favorite time of day is when the earth is waking up. You can hear every little tree, the leaves, the birds. You can hear the lizards running through the yard. It's amazing. Yeah.
Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, it's very, very nice. So that's one of the things I loved about your music too. You can hear all those layers, and the fact Beth Toy, who's one of the folks we hang out here, she's a layer person. She can hear every single track of anything that's laid down, and she can isolate it. I'm not that good, but she can do that. It's like,
that's amazing.
Really? Can you hear that? It's like, I didn't hear that. Right? So do you have that talent as well?
I strive for it. There's some things that kind of go over my head, but I definitely, since I started producing music, I've tuned my ear a little bit more to paying attention to small details and sounds, and even when you're in a large room, hearing the different conversations or things dropping or rustling and stuff like that.
Now, when you hear it, do you feel it as well? Do you feel the vibration as well?
Not so much when I'm in a room, but definitely if I'm out in nature or if I'm listening to other people's music. I think I'm definitely a very empathetic and sensitive person. So sometimes I can definitely feel the vibration. Sometimes even to this, like, to the level of like, I can feel it like traveling through my body or through my spine, and like,
wow,
yeah,
that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, very.
So let's talk about your early childhood here in Las Vegas,
Sure.
because that's my takeaway from this is you grew up in this loud town.
Very.
I never knew that Las Vegas was so loud until I call it when I ran away from home for like 3 years. I went to Seattle and I went to Dallas. My first couple of weekends in Dallas, I couldn't believe how quiet it was on the weekends. Like, the whole city quieted down. I was like, where did everybody go? And that was because I was so used to constant cacophony of sound. So how do you handle that?
Well, for the most part, I grew up in the suburbs. I grew up in like northeast Las Vegas, kind of by Nellis Air Force Base. So, I mean, it was loud because of the sonic booms, the jets. Sure. And also being on the Strip, that sometimes growing up was a bit overwhelming just because of all the stimulation. You have all these lights, the slot machines, and the people talking, the cigarette smoke, and that kind of stuff, or just being on the Strip. And I was just like overwhelmed by it, and I always wanted an escape from that in a way. And like I think that's why I enjoy being in nature
and maybe doing your music by yourself, because you can control the level of the sound and your involvement in the sound itself. It's a big deal. That was the same way. It's like I'm the only one in my family who's sound sensitive, so they always looked at me like I was weird. Like, come on, it's like, no, if we went to the mall, take me to the bookstore, and you guys go ahead and come back and get me later. It's like I was not a big shopper or anything like that.
Yeah, definitely.
So now are you from a big family?
I mean, I would say I come from a big family, but it's very nuclear. So I was raised by a Filipino-American mom. All her husbands were like in the military. So I grew up mostly in like a military household, very disciplined, very strict. And but then my dad is like Native American, and he's from Texas. So like I kind of went back and forth in between there and like Texas. And now he lives in Virginia. So I go over there and stuff. And but most of my childhood was really growing up here in Las Vegas. So that definitely had a big effect on me growing up, because it's like majority of my time was spent here, but then when I was with my dad, we'd be out in the woods. We'd be, hunting or fishing and stuff like that. So
what a different experience for a Vegas kid.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's amazing. Okay. Well, we're going to take another quick break, and we'll be right back to talk to David Cuff.
Crazy Terry here with your car care tip of the day. So it's not a bad idea every now and then to check your battery. If you don't know how to do it, have somebody check it for you. Just a visual inspection can tell you a lot about your battery. So as we can see here, this battery's got a hold down. It's nice and tight. The cables are on. They don't look bad. We've got a cover. We don't see any corrosion. Everything's kind of tight, looking good. A little bit of dirt, that's normal, but nothing's leaking, no real cause for alarm here. So that's a good sign. Doesn't mean it's good, but at least visually we know that it's intact. Okay, so we're looking at a battery here that shows signs of corrosion. We want to test that battery to make sure it's good. Usually when they're getting like this, there's going to be a problem, leaking some acid at the top. We ran the test and we find out it has 396 cold cranking amps, but the battery requires 650. So it's just not enough. The battery is going to go soon. Better to know now than later. Okay, so the benefits of checking the cable is because this cable's rotted out. What we'll find is this is the problem, not the battery. So it'll save you from buying a battery, still having the no start, only to find out that it's a cable. This type of corrosion is common in diesels. Okay, so we're getting ready to jump the car, but we have to have some battery cables. And we have to check those too before we hook them up to the battery. So here we have our standard set of battery cables. We just look them over, see if the ends are frayed, if everything's connected all right. Everything looks good here. Wouldn't hurt to check the rest of the cable just to make sure the dog didn't get it and chew it up. We have red and black. Red's positive, black's negative. You always want to hook the positive up first and then the negative. And I'll show you how that's done right now. Keep these off to the side so they're not touching each other. Hook up your positive. You can find that right here by the plus sign, the negative sign. Plus is positive, red. Make sure that's securely hooked up. Keeping these away from each other. Hook up your negative cable. Just got to fight it on there. Figure out a way to get it. Wiggle it a little bit so it ensures a good connection. Now you're transferring voltage. If I hit these two together, we're going to spark. Kind of want to avoid that. Won't kill you. Kind of fun. A lot of people think if they can turn the headlights on, the battery's fine. That's not always the case. It takes very little amperage to turn a light on, but it takes a lot of amperage to start the starter. I recommend checking the charging system every oil change. At Sun Valley Automotive, there's never a charge for that. This is Crazy Terry with your car care tip of the day.
Hi, I'm Mike McAuliffe.
And I'm Perry Haichu.
We're the hosts of the Nevada Cannabis News Hour.
Join us on WWDBTV.com.
So we're back with David Cuff, an electronic music producer, and he is just amazing. We now, in the commercial break, we realize that we have had the same childhood, separated by a couple years, but we have had the same childhood living here in Las Vegas, an appreciation for music and the outdoors and everything. And I'm asking now, because my parents were from musical families. Did your parents sing? Did you have early musical influences?
Yes and no. So my mom, she was like very like basic when it came to music. She just listened to like Celine Dion and like Cher, that kind of stuff. But who really put me on to my music was like, I would say it started off with my dad. He was like he just really enjoyed listening to music, a lot of like 90s hip hop.
Your dad was in the 90s hip hop? Get out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's actually really funny because my mom and my dad are 10 years apart. When they had me, my mom was 33 and my dad was 19, I believe. So that's just two very different generations,
Right.
And just to see the dichotomy of that is just like very fascinating, and it makes me who I am. So
Right.
I've appreciated that. But also, like growing up, my stepdad and my step grandparents, they put me onto a lot of like good music, a lot of oldies, and even like music from the 1930s, and just like just a large variety. And also, with like the advent of the internet, I had a lot of tools and resources to just look up music on my own. And my family kind of looks at me as like an old soul. they see me like,
how do you know this music?
Yeah, exactly. And what's cool about the internet too is like you can find very niche specific genres. Like one of my favorite things to listen to is like 1970s Japanese bossa nova, and it's like you would never think that like something like that exists, but
Right.
it's like you have this Portuguese inspired sound, but it's people are singing it in Japanese, and it's like, wow, this is beautiful. And like, yeah, I don't know, I just light up like, thinking about like those kinds of genres, those hidden or like niche things.
Right. So now, how do you find this music? Do you just sit down and just kind of cruise the net and something catches your ear? And
well, the internet is like purely novelty, so it's like sometimes I'll just be listening to something, or I'll search up something random like 1992 Australian sounds or music or whatever, and then I'll find a video, and then with YouTube they have a bunch of related videos. And just kind of go down this.
Next
wormhole.
thing you know, you've been like, yeah, right. You're being led somewhere else, right?
Yeah, I mean, and that's the beauty of it is like you can discover these new textures and these new sounds, and even like really old like ambient like techno, like when sound design was first starting to come to fruition, and like we had like all this technology with like synthesizers and analog stuff, and it's like what they were making back then is like what's fascinating to me now, because it's like I'm interested in like the 2.0 version of it, you know what I mean? So it's like how do I study what was back then, and like
so these are your classics,
yeah,
in a way, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So let's talk about the whole Advent, because one thing I noticed about your stuff is it's sultry almost. It's not hard hitting. It's very hypnotic, is I think the best word to describe it.
Mm-hmm.
How do you compare what you're doing to the EDC scene and what's happening now with like the music festivals
with EDM and stuff?
Yeah.
Well, especially with electronic music, I think people have this idea that it's like that boom, boom, boom.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like very like danceable and stuff. But electronic music in general it's this giant umbrella, and there's all these subgenres and categories, and everybody has their own lane and their own little worlds to kind of partake in. And I think with my music it's very sound. I like to call it like soundscape. I like to create like background music, and eventually I want to get into like scoring movies or films or commercials, or doing stuff with like brands that need like specific like sounds or video games and stuff. So it's like that's how I approach the music. It's not so much like how do I make people dance. It's like I want people to feel something. I want people to be engaged with it and like be able to close their eyes and like escape.
Well, that's always been one of my criticisms about some of the electronic music, is that it's repetitive to me.
Mm-hmm.
At a certain point, my body, I start getting bored. It's like it's not going anywhere. It's the same beat. Now, let's be honest. I grew up with James Brown, and everything else is the same beat. Yeah, I think he actually even put out a song that was same beat.
Yeah.
Because he was criticized for it so much.
Mm-hmm.
But his performance was what transformed it. Yes, it was the same beat, but his performance transformed it.
Mm-hmm.
When I go to some of these different clubs, at a certain point I just get tired. It's like there's no variation in this beat, and so I find it exhausting.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely see that. I think it's mostly because of I would say with my generation we're very used to like the loop.
Oh yes, yeah.
We're used to like seeing things like going like this and like this, and this is what entertains us, But
like the little spinners.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But with me it's like my background and my socioeconomic background and my influences growing up, I always loved jazz music growing up, so it's like improvisation was valuable and fascinating to me. So it's like, and that's also like how my brain works. I can't like get stuck on something for too long. I need some sort of variety, and I want to like change it up.
Right. Yeah. And it's sort of like and talking about as we're both readers, a story having a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Mm-hmm.
So the song for me has got to kind of have an arc. If it doesn't have an arc, it's sort of like, well, where are we going?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So we're going to take another quick break, and
Sure.
we'll talk some more to David Kaff.
Hi, I'm Mike McAuliffe.
And I'm Perry Haichu.
We're the hosts of the Nevada Cannabis News Hour.
Join us on WWDBTV.com.
Crazy Terry here with your car care tip of the day. Today's tips on cooling systems. This vehicle's got about 182,000 miles on it, so if you're checking the coolant, check the hoses too. Just feel them and see if they're soft or any signs of fatigue for the mileage on it. They don't feel bad. They look like they're still the original hose, but you want to make sure you don't go too long with these hoses because they will eventually deteriorate, cause a problem. In this case, this car's got a visible leak. The customer brought it to us. We'll pop the hood and check the cooling system. First, we just relieve any pressure might be on the cap, remove the cap, take a look inside. We see it's kind of low. Now we'll start our inspection. What we found on this one is the top tank is leaking. It's got a crack in it. Pretty common for these plastic radiators to do that. I want to get to a shop right away because severe engine damage can result from overheating condition like this. In this case, it was pretty easy to see the crack was right on the top tank, but a lot of times we'll have to pressurize the system to locate the exact leak. Could be a hose in the back, could be underneath. Some of these are hard to find, but in this case, a very common leak, the top tank. When we're testing a cooling system, it's okay to use just water, but you want to make sure when you're filling it up properly, it's a 50-50 mix of antifreeze and water. It needs the water to make the chemical work, so don't just put straight antifreeze. 50-50 mix is the best way to go. Keep it clean, keep it rust-free. So as you can see, we got a pretty active leak. You got to get this fixed, or there's going to be some engine problems. If you're going to top off your own coolant, it's really not that hard. If you got a radiator cap, just make sure it's not hot. Take the cap off and take a look. In this case, we're pretty full here, but what we have is the overflow jugs empty. So we'll just add that. Once again, check your manufacturer's specs to make sure what type of coolant you have. In this case, we're using the good old green. There's gold, there's red, there's yellow, all types out there. Just want to make sure you're staying with your manufacturer recommended coolant. And that's really all there is to it. The cooling system is a major component. You'll want to service that regularly. If you have a problem, it could be too late and cost you thousands of dollars. If ever you have a problem, come into Sun Valley Automotive. It's no charge to look at your cooling system. This is Crazy Terry with your car care tip of the day.
Back here with David Cuff, and one of the things I always like when I have young musicians on is for them to be honest about the business end of the music business. Now, his manager, beautiful woman, is sitting here over the side, and she refused to come on and talk about this. I don't know why, but so we're going to talk about it. Now, you've been making music for most of your life. This is not like something that you just started in high school.
Actually, it was something that I started like right after high school. I mean, I've always had an interest in music, but like I told you before, I was like very visually arts driven for the most part, but I never realized that you can make music on a laptop until after I graduated high school. I mean, I think I had an idea, but I didn't realize how accessible it was until after I graduated, and yeah.
So now, how did you get started to, and actually for, putting your music out there in front of people?
It started with just like posting stuff on SoundCloud and then sharing it with my friends and that kind of stuff. And in high school, I was kind of like that kid that always like floated around between groups. So it was like, I knew a lot of people, and it's just like, that was like the beginning of me like, all right, this is like something that like people actually like. And, if they like me as a person, they should like.
They support your music as well. Now, tell me about the body of your work so far, because we know about Heyman, we've shown it, but you've done a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, I started around mid 2014, late 2014, and I've just been like nonstop at it since then. It's almost become an obsession, and I kind of traded that as the alternative to attending like a traditional college route. So that's where like all that time went to like investing in music instead. And it's cool just to see it like slowly paying off.
Right. I was watching TV last night, and I saw an old Eddie Murphy clip. No, I was watching YouTube, and he was, and the sound was down, but what he was talking about was, if you're going to actually succeed in life, you have to go for what you want. You can't have a fallback. He says the people who have
Plan
a fallback.
A is my only plan.
right. Yeah. You got to believe in yourself enough to actually go with it. So where are you going with it?
As far as music, I definitely see myself just making it and putting on for Las Vegas. Like, I want people to know that like we have a lot of great musical talent here, and I just want to be a voice for the city and a voice for the kids that are like me, that felt like, they were creative, but the world doesn't really feel like there's any value for them, But that's not the case at all. Like, I definitely feel like the world is starting to wake up to see that, like, we have all these really young, bright, intelligent, creative kids, and, we need to create a place for them. So I think that's, like, the long-term goal with my music is, like, create a space and a sound that, makes people feel comfortable with themselves and their creativity. And eventually I want to like just take it to the next level and start touring and doing festivals and shows and just creating more opportunity through music and sound and like I said before, like doing partnerships with like brands and video games and movies and that kind of stuff.
I love the video games part. He gets that in. So how did you and Ms. Brooks meet up? Jessica, who's sitting over here, your manager.
I think I came across like a Craigslist ad or something, and then I was like, you know what, why not take a shot at this? And then emailed her, and then I think like a week or two later she emailed me back, and we met up, and I just instantly like could see the transparency with her and the honesty, and like that's what made me like, all right, let's move forward with this.
Now, how important is it to have a manager? I mean, is it can you do it by yourself, or do you need somebody who's got your back?
I definitely have done everything up to now by myself. Well, not completely. I've had the help of my friends, of course, but now I'm at a point in my career where I definitely understand the value of having help and being vulnerable and asking for help and stuff. And Jessica has definitely helped me realize that. And simple opportunities like this and stuff it makes me happy, and like it makes me more humbled to realize like I can't do it all on my own.
Right. And the business end of the business is something. I remember my mom telling me when I first got into journalism, I said, Mommy, I'm going to be a journalist. And she just says, oh no, baby, you're going into show business. It's like, no, I'm a journalist. She goes, you're putting on makeup. You're going into show business, and the only color is green. I thought that was so crass at the time. Yeah. And then over the years, it's like, Mommy was right.
Yeah.
But she opened my eyes to the need to take care of the finances, to take care of the whole picture, or at least get some help doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I definitely see the value in that. And I definitely know, especially with like with younger people, it's like we definitely struggle a lot more with understanding money, because I think not a lot of people were really there to like teach us the ropes. Like, this is how you save, this is how you budget, this is how you do your taxes.
Right.
You know what I mean? And like once we like graduate high school, it's like, oh shoot, like what do we do now? So it's like those like business end is like definitely stuff that I had to like research on my own, but also like seek advice and mentorship from other people. Right.
Now, when you're out there and you're playing, do you see a lot of young people your age out kind of doing their thing here in Las Vegas?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like Las Vegas, especially in the downtown arts district, there's just a lot of thriving creativity and young people that have this verve and just we want to like make a difference and make an impact and use our art as the platform to do so. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just like all the people that I'm involved with, in particular my friends, I'm a part of this collective called The Rabbit Hole. It's a bunch of people that make just weird like Slack beats, and it's very niche and specific, and we throw monthly shows, and I love that like Vegas now we have communities of people that are doing these things, and we're creating our community, you know what I mean, versus like years ago we didn't really have those kinds of things. And also with like Life is Beautiful, I'm actually involved also with an artist enclave downtown called Six in Franklin and Six in Music. Mm-hmm. So that's also kind of been a really great part of the journey as well, is like being involved with people that are part of Life is Beautiful, and that are involved with the downtown arts and First Friday and all that stuff. It's really amazing. Right.
I was kind of afraid for a while that downtown was going away, that the downtown music, it seems like it hit a bump there for a while.
Yeah, I definitely think in some ways there's a bit of a plateau, and I think that also is a reflection of like economically where we're at, you know what I mean? When economically times are good, we value art more, when times are a little bit tougher, art kind of takes the back burner. But I think at the end of the day, there's still a place for artists to thrive and live in downtown Las Vegas.
I found it very interesting. It's like of all the people I've met, like just over the last 10 years, all the new people to Las Vegas, like in the maybe under 40, they all go downtown. Mm-hmm. They don't go to the Strip. They're just like, no, they don't even want to do it. And then the other locals don't go to the Strip at all. But it just seems like that downtown energy and that vibe is so attractive.
Yeah, because, definitely there's the not so pretty sides of it. Of course, we have, city, just like other cities, we have gentrification. We have, rising, like, homeless population and stuff. And, there's definitely problems there. But I think the introduction of like having artists definitely brings a new like life to it, you know what I mean? And It kind of reminds me of, like back in the day in New York, you know what I mean? Like they would introduce like places and spaces for these artists to just thrive and do their thing, and like it redefines and reintroduces culture in any way.
Right. Now, are there a lot of venues now? Because I'll be honest, I haven't been downtown a lot. I'm aware of the scene, but I knew that there were some venues that were closing down. It seemed like it was going, but is there a resurgence now? Or
yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of venues, and also I think there's also a lot more multidisciplinary spaces. So there's definitely like spaces where it'll be a clothing boutique, you know what I mean? And then like at night they'll throw events there or whatever, you know what I mean? So it's
like an art gallery in the
like
daytime or something else at night. Right?
Like that kind of stuff. And I think that shows how much more community we're trying to create, because we're not limiting just like, oh, this is just a music venue. Like everybody wants to touch everything, you know. We want, like when you have an event, it's like you got to have the art, you got to have the fashion, you know what I mean? You got to have the music, you got to have the food, even down to that, you know. We have a very thriving culinary arts here in Vegas. I think not a lot of people recognize that. Right. So
the restaurant scene downtown is like getting crazy. It's fantastic.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Now, how do you think your growing up in Las Vegas influences your perspective on downtown and the music scene that's happening now?
Well,
'cause, I mean, you grew up kind of the tail end of Elvis. Not quite, you know?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's a little bit harder for my generation to grasp some of the musical history that existed here in Vegas. I mean, of course, we have like the greats like Frank Sinatra, Elvis, and, you know, Sammy Davis, you know, like all that stuff just going on down like on the Strip and stuff. But like I said, my generation has a harder time grasping that. We don't have like any newer role models per se that like we don't have like anyone like Justin Timberlake. I mean, we have bands like The Killers or Imagine Dragons or The Cab and stuff like that, but you know, those people came from the suburbs,
right?
So they're looking up to those kinds of people. But as far as like downtown, like on the Strip, you know, we're creating that. We're trying to be those pioneers right now. And growing up in Las Vegas just gave me a very globalized perspective, because it's like we see how many, you know, artists we're bringing onto the Strip, into the clubs and all that stuff. And it's like, man, these clubs, they're showing a lot of love to like these big artists, but it's like, you know, how do we create like more of a pathway for local artists to thrive, you know, on the Strip? And also like downtown makes more room for us, you know what I mean? So I think that's why we gravitate towards that space. And yeah, just overall, like I said, it's like having a globalized perspective. Like we're not limited, like growing up in Vegas, it's like we have a little taste of everything, you know what I mean? So it's like we don't want to be limited or bound by just the Strip. We want to like move beyond and like, you know, go to like all these international and tech hubs, you know. I mean, for me personally, like I strive to like travel the world with my music and like go to places and like share my gift with the world, and like wherever that takes me, like I'll be happy, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, we'll take one more quick break. We'll be right back.
Crazy Terry here with your car care tip of the day. Today's tip's about tire maintenance, how to check a tire, how to fill it properly. Okay, so as we can see, we've got a low tire. We probably saw that a month ago and said we'll fill it, but like everything, we let a day go by. Next thing you know, we got a problem. Properly check a tire, remove the valve cover. Got a tire gauge, simply put it on there, and it'll read the pressure down at the bottom in PSI, pounds per square inch. We can see here that this is so low, it's barely reading. It's probably 10 pounds in it at best. So how do we properly inflate it? Well, we're going to need an air chuck. Go down to the local store or come by the shop. We'll use this tool to inflate it. And that sounds like that's all we need to do. But we need to know how much to inflate it to, because overinflated is just as bad as underinflated. We can look at the tire, and on here we're going to find a cold pressure rating rated in PSI. And it's going to say anywhere from 32 to 80 pounds depending on the vehicle. We'll want to find that so we know the maximum inflation cold. We're going to look until we find the load rating. And here we find the maximum PSI is 44 PSI, pounds per square inch cold. We don't want to fill it any more than that, but we don't want to underfill it either. We want to fill it to 44. So it seems like checking the air pressure is no big deal. It's not. It's really simple to do, but we want to make sure we got the correct pressure. How do we find that? Let me show you. We open the door and we locate the sticker. It's usually right here. It could be down on the lower rocker, but it's on the driver's side. And after we look around, we'll see right here, it says 35 PSI. That's the pressure that the tire requires that was sold with the vehicle. But if you change the tires later to a high-performance tire, mud and snow or anything else, look at the cold pressure on the side of the tire to make sure you're properly inflated. This could be 35 today, but we get a performance tire, it's 44, 45, or even higher. We'll want to make sure we're inflating the tire properly. A couple of things you're going to need if you're checking your own tires: tire gauge and a rag, because you are going to get a little dirty. If you don't want to do that, I don't blame you. Bring it to the shop, we'll check it for you. We'll do a whole inspection on the vehicle if you like. We'll check the tires, make sure you're safe. This can save you a lot of time and keep you safe. Crazy Terry here with your car care tip of the day. Thanks a lot.
And we are back with David Cuff. I'm so impressed with this young man. He's just got such an amazing perspective on music and life and the world, and what we can do to make Las Vegas a better place to live. So if you had a top 10 list of changes that you could make to improve Las Vegas, what would they be? I'm not putting him on the spot.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean, I hope the people that are in charge are listening, or, have some sort of influence are listening. So definitely I would say placing a higher value on our education system, like number one priority. I think, I'd like to see more involvement and like investment in the arts. I mean, fortunately I had the beautiful opportunity of going to all these magnet schools where, being creative was like the whole point of the school, you know what I mean? So yeah, just investing more in like creative arts and investing in more very specific programs and providing that for kids all across the valley, helping them gear up for very specialized careers. I think that's what's going to help them like transition into adulthood a lot better versus like just graduating and then getting a job at the club. You know what I mean? Popping bottles at the club.
Right, yeah.
And like making sure that we actually contribute more value to the world than just our tourism and stuff. Other than that, maybe providing more community outreach, just events for young people to connect with like minds or connect with mentors. A lot more mentorship programs or young leadership programs, because I had the beauty of like experiencing that growing up too, but not everybody in Las Vegas gets that.
Right.
So definitely like more leadership and mentorship programs.
I'm glad you said that about mentorship, because when people ask me, how I got here, just recently I actually sat down and did what I called like a well-being journal.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked down the list of all the people who had helped me who never asked for a thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there was always somebody there to go, okay, Rikki, do this. Okay, Rikki, do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like just pushing me along, and I would just kind of go in that direction.
Yeah.
But you're right. It's like mentorship is huge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And that's like a huge thing, especially when it comes to the success of a child, like, and especially if that child doesn't have the greatest like parental influences
Right.
growing up,
Right.
like mentorship has the potential to save the kid's life.
Right.
Honestly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd love to see more stuff like that. I mean, beyond the arts district, I'd love to see more value being placed on artists and, giving artists more opportunities to create murals and that kind of stuff, even out in the suburbs, and
I know, because it's like right down. It's all downtown.
it's all downtown, but like, why can't we bring that to the suburbs too? We have, these communities of people where they're, commuting every day and they're, they're living, but they don't see any culture.
And there are miles and miles of block walls. Don't say that
Yeah.
you don't have a canvas. Right?
Yeah, exactly. There's miles and miles of
Right.
walls, and houses that very cookie cutter and they're all the same. And it's like, I want us to, place more priority on like trying to break that mold. But I mean, I think that's just coming along from like a millennial perspective, like we want to change things. And
Right.
yeah. So definitely more placement on artists. Definitely just a more sense of community. I want to see more people like talking to their neighbors. I don't think we do that enough, especially in the suburbs. We're just like cooped up and
Yeah.
like,
Hi.
like, hey, how's it going?
Right.
We don't talk to our neighbors enough. And yeah, I mean, that's something even myself I'm challenged with. So yeah, that, and I think just providing more opportunities for people, not only on like a job level, but to get more involved with their community and get more involved with the people around them, or just programs like that. And yeah, I think once we start there, then we can start to tackle a lot of the larger problems, like homelessness. Like I think I also like rehabilitation programs are something I would love to see. I I grew up in a low income neighborhood, so I have friends and family that like went into the jail system, and like they come back, and it's like it's a challenge to get assimilated again, and
Right.
yeah, like I would love to see more actual rehabilitation rather than like, all right, you're free to go again, and then like they end up in the same cycles. You know what I mean? Like we're spending all this money on like just housing them there. Why don't we spend money on like actually helping them getting their mind straight and getting their
Right.
just like their overall well-being in check, so that they can come back to the world and want to be more of a contribution, rather than like, well, this is the life I live, this is like what I've been through, this is like what everyone around me is doing, I'm just gonna do it again and do that over and over. It's like it's toxic and it's unhealthy for the community.
Yeah. I think he should run for office. I think somebody's in trouble out there somewhere. I'm so glad to have you on the show today, and I love your music. I love your outlook. You just made my whole day.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yes, and so when you get ready to release your next big project, I promise we'll be back on again.
Yeah, I'll
and maybe
definitely be
Jessica will be on that time. She's going. No. All right. Well, again, go on YouTube, David period Cuff.
Yeah.
Creating Unlikely Future. He's just an amazing young man. Amen is his song. It's on YouTube. You can find other music as well, so check him out.
Yeah.
Follow him.
Yeah,
like
or you can
him.
just visit WWDBTV.com. You have access to everything there, and yeah, hopefully you guys stay connected. Thank you, Rikki, for having me.
Thank you.
Yeah, happy to be
Right.
here.
We'll be back next week with another edition of Live Las Vegas with Rikki Cheese.